Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Long time no see again. I thought I would come on and give you guys a little update about where I've been for those asking. I have been taking these large gaps from social media, and I didn't really want to talk about it until I was sure what's going on. I'm still not sure, but just to give you guys a little more insight. First, I'm going to tell you guys where I've been, and then after that, I'm going to talk to you guys about all this fun stuff that I bought on Amazon since quarantine has been happening, and it's not sponsored. I purchase all the products myself. I am an affiliate with them, so if you buy from my links, I will earn an affiliate commission. Again, I know you guys are probably sick of hearing that if I say it, but I say it in every video because I don't want to just put it in the description box. I like to say it, put it in there, all of that, so it never seems like I'm being sneaky. I found an interesting mix of stuff on Amazon, like house cleaning supplies, beauty supplies, skincare, skin tools, all of these cool things, so I will talk about that. I feel like this bird is mocking me. Depending on, again, let's see if I have enough time. Really? Depending on if I have enough time, and again, I'll address where I am as well. So I did post a brief, well, I guess not brief, brevity is definitely not one of my strengths, I guess, but I posted on Instagram just telling you guys kind of where I've been, because I was getting emails and a lot of comments like asking like what happened to me. Really? This bird? What kind of bird are you? Where are you? I don't know crap about birds. That's a big bird. Not like Big Bird, but like a big bird. Is he mocking me? What are you doing, bird? Just chilling? Going in circles? Going around? What the hell? Watch, someone in the comment section is going to be like, I can tell by that call that it's a... I'm impressed by you if you can, because I don't know. I want to start this off by acknowledging that I realize there are some horrific things going on in the world right now. A lot of horrible things are happening in the United States. Innocent people are being killed. There are things that are going on that are social injustices that I can't even begin to wrap my mind around. I've really just been focusing on myself, and in all honesty, I was afraid I was dying. So I kind of blocked out everything that was going on, and I'll touch on all of that stuff in a little bit. I do realize, lucky me, that I am in a place of privilege, that I was able to turn that part off and focus on just my health. I realize that not everyone has that luxury, and you know, some people, it does come down to life or death for them, so it is important for everybody to stay up to date on what's going on. I just want to let you know, I didn't not comment on any of the things that were going on, not because I don't care, just because I was struggling to survival for myself. I do have the luxury of being able to turn off social media or even the news, where not a lot of people can, and burying my head in the sand like an ostrich doesn't do anybody favors, but it was important for me that I focus on my well-being to make sure that I'm still on this planet. I was struggling to do basic things like even get myself out of bed. This is in no way to say like boo-hoo me. This is in no way to try to get pity from people. The last thing I ever want from anybody is pity. I don't want that. I just want to explain where I've been and to share some of the information I've learned on what's going on with my health. I'm going to be using the word I a lot. This is probably going to sound like one of my more self-centered videos. Maybe someone can say that a lot of them are. It seems really selfish in the middle of everything that's going on in the world right now, but I do realize that I am allowed to have feelings of my own regarding my own life and situation that doesn't devalue anybody else's situation or pain or anything else that they're experiencing. I also fully realize that by sharing this information, again, like in my last personal video, that I open myself up to be made fun of. People make jokes at my expense, wish ill will on me further. Like I've stated in previous videos, I really don't give a shit, because no one that's talking shit about me like that is doing any better at life than me, or they'd have other stuff to do. And at this point, that's saying a lot about how bad you must be doing, because I have not been doing well. So you should take that as a huge insult if you're going to be a jerk. If I was worried about that stuff, I wouldn't get on camera and share these things with you guys. I would keep them to myself and just act like everything's great, everything's grand, no problems. So let me try to go in order. So first, the apartment. I'm currently in LA. and I'll touch on where in LA right now. But so my apartment was required to give 60-day notice if we didn't intend to renew the lease. Any of you guys that are aware, I moved down from San Francisco down to Southern California, and I moved in with my friend Kat, who is also my hairstylist, and my friend. We were both going through breakups, long-term breakups, long-term relationship breakups, and we thought it would be nice to kind of support each other because of where we wanted to live. It would be nice to share the costs with each other, and it was great. We got deals on our rent if we signed more than a year lease, so we always signed like 13 months. So we lived there for 2 years and 2 months. Actually a little more because we ended up having to extend it a little bit because we were both kind of like scattering to see where we were gonna stay. Kat and I had a 3-bedroom there because I needed a home office, and I left all my stuff there set up to film. Nothing bad happened. Kat's awesome. I love her. It was just time for us to go out on our own. We gave notice, and I wasn't going to like really in-depth look at new places. I was kind of getting a feeling for where I wanted to be, but it was really pointless to look at places or get my heart set because places either wanted me to move in immediately or within like a week, or they were gone right away, and I was kind of like getting my heart set on things and they were going. So I was like, I'm gonna look closer to the moving date, probably like 3 to 2 weeks until I was supposed to move. Well, then stay at home was ordered, and even our leasing office closed, so we could only text or email or call if we needed anything or like if some emergency happened, but regular like standard maintenance kind of stuff wasn't coming out. It was a public health crisis. I couldn't even tour anywhere besides virtual tours, and then a couple places that I found that I was able to tour, they basically just left the door open and I could go in, look around for myself, and then leave, and then we communicate later if I was interested or not. Fisheye bulb, it looks like, and I looked at a couple places that the rooms looked huge, and then once I was standing in there, I was like, no. So I'm glad I did get to go look at them. Also, things like not everywhere has air conditioning, if you're along the water, especially the older places. But some of them are on like a 3rd-story walk-up, and if I'm in the room filming or if I'm under warm lights, I definitely was going to need to have air on. So it was important for me to kind of gauge those things and see. I also want to hear things like the noise outside and a bunch of other things. So I wasn't comfortable signing a new lease yet. Now, our apartment, if we were not to re-sign a new lease, would go month to month, and that would double our rent each month, which is crazy ridiculous. All of those restrictions were very understandable. It just gave me anxiety that I couldn't see something, like, you know, I'd have to kind of sign it and then see. And not all places were doing that, but the places around me I was struggling to find. During this time when retailers were, like the majority of them at the time that were non-essential, were all closed down, also services, all professional beauty services, nothing in salon could happen. So in the field that I work in the beauty industry, that drastically affected my income and my job. The beauty industry really has been rocked. A lot of the companies that I work with that had pending POs, purchase orders, had either canceled them or put them on hold. We were having issues importing things from Italy, components from China. It was just a logistical nightmare, a nightmare in general. I just didn't feel confident signing a new lease as well without knowing when business would start to return to normal. I was nervous that I was going to have, you know, $3,000 or plus dollars going out each month in rent, and I didn't know when I could start counting on a regular paycheck again. I was scared I was going to burn through my savings and then kind of be stuck at a problem that I was like, how am I going to pay the next month? I didn't want to ruin my credit, and then there were just a million things that were on my mind. Now, during all of this, I hadn't been feeling well. I chalked it all up to my anxiety and just depression kind of at the overall state of the world and everything going on. I kind of figured I was struggling just like the rest of the world. And on top of all of that, I wasn't even sure where I wanted to live anymore because I came down to Southern California kind of on a fluke. It was to get a place with my friend. I never really wanted to leave San Francisco, but it was getting so expensive. Now that I've gone back up there, the city has changed a lot. And I don't know where I want to live. Nothing is holding me to one certain area, and I am kind of a little bit of a nomadic person that I do move a decent amount. So I just didn't know what I want, and there were so many things going on at the time that normally I just make a decision, pull the trigger, and I go. This was the first time in my life that I was feeling afraid. Like, I didn't know what I wanted. That was scaring me. I didn't know what is going on with the world. All that uncertainty was just making me feel sick. I was thinking, do I want to move up to Chicago to be closest to my best friends? Do I want to move back to Arizona to be around some of my really close friends there? Did I want to go back up to San Francisco? As I was going through, and still am, these health issues and all of these doctor's appointments and things, both my mother and my father both wanted me to move to be closer to them, so I didn't have to go through all of these things by myself or without family around. Prior to this, though, Kat had been quarantining with her boyfriend, and so I was home with, Dior and Massimo, and I started kind of like freaking out. I didn't go and run to the grocery store when all of this stuff started, like when the quarantine started happening, because there were so many people, and I was just thinking, I've never heard of anything like this. So I was thinking, I survived hurricanes and stuff growing up on the East Coast. I was like, this will blow over. Boy, was I wrong. So I had spoke with Keegan, and I told him, I'm freaking out, I'm freaking out. And Keegan was living up in LA, and if you guys follow again on Instagram or anything, we've stayed really good friends. We spend all the holidays together because neither one of us have family in California, so it's just nice. It's a nice support system. I've known him for going on 9 years. We were together for 6 of those years. So it's just, we have a really strong friendship. So Keegan came down, and he spent those last 2 months at my apartment with me. He also was smart and had gone grocery shopping, so he brought down a bunch of groceries down to my place too, which I greatly appreciated. It was great to have him there. Now, at this point, I'm in kind of full panic mode. Where am I going to live? Time is dwindling down. I have to pull the trigger and make a decision. And my friends have a guest room in their house, and they just told me, they're like, Steph, why don't you put all your stuff into storage and you can come rent out our guest room for the month? And they're like, just let things settle down. Then you can go out and start looking at places. And they just basically said, it would help us too, because it'll pay basically half of their mortgage, and it would be nice again to be around friends during all of this. So that's what I did. Even trying to find movers was difficult in this time, again, which is very understandable. But outside of Kat's bedroom, the whole house of furniture was mine, and I'm thinking, I work up, but no, I cannot lift. I could not move all of those things, and I didn't want to ask other people or friends to come and put themselves when everyone was saying, stay at home. I eventually did find some movers that were extremely cautious, very sanitary, that came and moved all of my things into a 10 by 20 storage unit right now. So that's everything I pretty much own. That's where it is. Well, material-wise. Put all my stuff in there, and I went and I rented out that guest bedroom in my friend's house. Now, moving in with them left me without space to film. I didn't have my camera equipment. I didn't have my giant lights and stuff. That just takes up way too much space. So that had all gone into storage. I was watching and reading the news a ton. I was trying to stay abreast of what was going on. I was overwhelmed with sadness, with fear, with anxiety, with depression, just about the state of the world and everything that was going on. I was scared for the world, but I was also scared for myself. I didn't know what my future held. Also, during this time, I did not feel inspired to create any content. There were major, and still are, major social injustices going on. There was a bunch of crap drama that was going on social media and the beauty community. I feel like when I would even try to open it up to escape from reality a little bit, it was just nonstop drama. And again, that's not from everybody. It's just kind of what it was recommending in my video feeds, or people asking me to comment on certain things. And so I was just no. So I just detached from it all. I had to. During that time as well, though, I did pass on all sponsorships as well from companies that I do work with, because I wasn't feeling good, and I wasn't gonna force myself to get on camera and look like a sad sack or whatever if my heart wasn't into it, or if I didn't have anything to add to the conversation, new products to talk about, anything like that. I'd also mention to you guys, with people watching on smart TVs or people that choose not to engage, I've done tons of educational videos over the years, and they don't get the response that product hauls will get, not hauls because I don't do those, but I'm talking about my favorite products of the month or things like that. And it just felt like I was putting all of these hours, like 20 hours plus, in research and setting up, organizing all my thoughts and my ideas, the money I was spending to buy all these products and test them, the research. It just was getting to be, I made my videos so much work that it started making me want to avoid them. Like, I didn't want to do them anymore because I wasn't left with positivity. I was left with a lot of negativity. So I was like, why am I doing this to myself? It makes zero sense. It's a terrible use of my time. When I think about what I bill out, like on an hourly rate for my business, I think like that is not computing at all. And it may be me, it may be my content. I've heard other content creators bring this up or talk about it. I see that people are just getting unsubscribed. Ronnie, my comment moderator and friend, she had told me that she had logged about over 4,000 comments of people saying, I just went to look for your channel and I realized I was unsubscribed and I didn't unsubscribe to your channel. So I do know that some of it is that, and some of it could be that people aren't engaged in my content anymore. It could be same old, same old. It also could be that I was doing sponsored videos and people were irritated at it. Again, I don't really fully understand why, because I only do it with retailers that allow me to pick whatever I want. They're places I already shop and I don't get censored. That's my requirement for them. I'm not going to sign. The only thing that I will ever agree to with them is a date that I would post by. Otherwise, I don't agree to anything that I'm going to say, and they never have a problem with that. Again, that's determines who I will work with and who I won't. So through all of this, when I was doing some of the Sephora sponsorships, from the dawn of my channel, I've always talked about them, and so it seemed like a natural flow for me. And again, I understand that people were irritated, but then I kept thinking even more for the educational videos, I'm like, what left is there for me to talk about? I kept trying to think, I'm like, I feel like I'd covered so many topics that I really just was kind of like, I was stumped. I was like, do I want to review one more neutral eyeshadow palette? Like, how many foundations can I review? How many liquid lipsticks can I review? How many? And now I know, like, I'm kind of like back on the train, but I was just feeling like, what's the point? What's the point? And so again, my little monkey brain got sidetracked. Every time I uploaded, automatically, like the minute I'd hit publish, I was dropping like 1,000 the next day, just constantly going down in subscriber count. And I'm just like, okay. So it just made me feel like, what's the point? That first month of being out of my apartment and not having my own space was hard for me. I went from being super busy to basically sitting around the house with my thumb up my butt. It felt like I just felt aimless. I felt like I had no purpose. I had mentioned in my last video that I was really mentally struggling too, that I tried to get on some kind of routine again because I no longer had work. I didn't have the gym. I didn't have happy hour with friends or dinners or anything like that. So it's like just everything stopped all at once. I crashed hard. I was crying every day. All the days were running together. And I think this holds true for what a lot of people are going through. And that's one of the reasons I want to talk about it, just to let you guys know that if you feel like you're losing your mind, you're not alone. All the days are still running together. I still do cry pretty often right now with everything that's going on. I have struggled with mental illness in the past. When I was a child, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And that makes me feel a lot of times like my hair is on fire, running around like, the sky's falling. Over the past decade, I've really learned a lot of coping mechanisms and techniques to help me try to self-soothe myself so I wasn't always super high-strung like a really tight rubber band. And that took me a really long time to try to get to that point. And I still had my days, but it wasn't multiple times a day, every single day like it used to be. I had a roommate that killed herself when I was in college, and that really tipped me over a point that was really negative and bad for me. And I went from doctors diagnosing me as depressed to bipolar. I ran, like I've said, the gauntlet of medications. They had me on mood stabilizers, antidepressants. Nothing was working for me. The last resort was they put me on lithium, which, oh my God. It's a salt, and for it to be effective, it has to be right at a level that is close to toxic. So too little doesn't do anything. Too much can kill you. So it's a lot of blood work, and I was on that for a while. And I just remember one Christmas I was back in New York and we were Christmas shopping, and I just remember I had to run to the bathroom and broke out in the sweats and I threw up in the bathroom. I was just like, none of these things are working for me at the time. What ended up working for me was going to therapy and kind of working those issues out, and like a lot of survivor's guilt, a whole plethora of bad feelings. I was trying to make sure that I didn't fall into one of these things where when you're on the medication and you feel good that you think, oh, I don't need this anymore, and you stop taking it, and then you crash, and then you start it up again, and then you crash. That typically tends to be something with bipolar people. I don't know how to describe it. I don't even know, looking back now, if I was properly diagnosed at the time. So I just stopped. The only thing that had been working for me for a while were benzodiazepines, which I've discussed. And my doctor had me on, now this was a general practitioner, not even a psychiatrist or anything, had me on, I built up a tolerance to the benzodiazepines, and I mean, they're highly addictive. Things like Xanax have a way shorter half-life than something like a Klonopin. I started on 0.25 milligrams, went up to half, went up to 1, then skipped right to 2. Then I was taking 3 bars of Xanax a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 at night. Like I've mentioned before, my brain was like Swiss cheese. I don't remember years of my life, and that was when I was in my early to mid-20s. Spoke about it previously, the withdrawals I had from that when I stopped taking it, when I realized I didn't take it one day and I started getting sick, and I just bit off a little piece and it went away. I was like, oh my God, I'm a drug addict. And it wasn't even providing the soothing for my anxiety anymore. At this point, it was just making sure that I wasn't going into withdrawals, and I felt terrible. So I just realized, like, that was a Band-Aid. Xanax for me, because again, it was being preventative as well. It wasn't just when I was having an anxiety attack. I was getting 90 bars a month. I just realized that was a problem, and I didn't like the way it was making me feel. My parents said I was like basically like drooling. Again, I don't remember a lot of that stuff. I think I just was medicating myself not to feel anything. Anyway, back to my story anyway, and we'll get back on other medications. Keegan had suggested that I come up and stay with him. He lived about an hour away with no traffic up in LA. The first week of June, I came up to LA to stay with Keegan. I just brought some of my clothes and my pets. I was with Keegan when we took in Massimo from the hallway from some jerk that just dumped him in there. So he's known Keegan his whole life, and Dior absolutely adores Keegan, so that was a great fit. During this time, I didn't have my vanity, since I was in this like depressive hole. I wasn't really, again, even exercising any self-care. I wasn't even doing my skincare like morning, nights. I wasn't really applying makeup. I was struggling, like I said, even to get out of bed. My energy level, which I'm normally super energetic, I wake up pretty early in the morning, I work pretty late at night, and I go to the gym, I do all these things, I'm out all the time. I all of a sudden could not peel myself out of bed. Like my internal clock, I'm up every day on my own at 6:52 in the morning. 6:52 in the morning. I'm automatically up. I all of a sudden could sleep till 10, 11. I did not know what was going on with me. Now, without having my things like my vanity or my makeup routine, I wasn't looking at myself a lot. I wasn't posting on social media, so I wasn't taking selfies. I wasn't sitting here filming and editing where I can dissect the smallest flaw on myself. I didn't have any of that. If you look, if I sit back like this, everything like kind of in your neck goes away. So if I was just like kind of leaning back like this, you couldn't really tell I wasn't sitting up. Like I wasn't having good posture. I wasn't sitting kind of at attention. So the issue that I developed, I don't know how long it was going on. The bathroom in that place is an older one, and the mirror kind of hits me like right about here. So I really just would see from there up when I'd go brush my teeth or get in the shower or anything like that. And Keegan's a guy. Typically, a lot of guys don't tend to have mirrors all over their house, and he doesn't. Had problems breathing. then I had started developing a problem swallowing. And again, I had chalked this all up to my anxiety because those are issues I've had in the past where it almost feels like my throat was closing up. The best way I could describe the anxiety attacks I would have would feel like if you were standing on the edge of a stair, if you've almost ever caught yourself, or even like leaning back in a chair and you go too far, and that fear feeling of like catching yourself, that's what I would feel all the time. And Keegan started waking me up at night because he said it sounded like I was choking, and I typically sleep like a dead person, so he said, but I don't ever snore or make noise really. He said that I was like, sounded like I was choking, so he'd shake me or he'd say I was breathing funny. And sometimes that anxiety can feel paralyzing, so I was just kind of putting it all together like that. And it feels like this happened just overnight, but it didn't. One day I noticed this huge lump in my throat, which I'll show a picture here of. I freaked out. I thought, oh my God, this must have happened overnight. Maybe it's an allergic reaction to something. I was trying to think of anything that I ate or what could have caused this. And the way that I even noticed it was I went into the storage locker and I got my Simple Human magnifying mirror out and I was plucking my eyebrows. Now again, I was kind of like leaning back because I was doing it while I was sitting in bed with the mirror on my lap. And as I went to get up, the mirror kind of sat down and it was on my neck. And I looked down and I said, why does that look like a funhouse mirror? I'm thinking, oh, maybe because it's like magnified and the distance I was at. So I went like this and it literally felt like a lemon inside my neck. And I was like, what the heck? And so I went into the bathroom and I stood up on my tippy toes and I noticed this huge lump sticking out of the right side of my neck. And again, I thought it was an allergic reaction. I asked Keegan if he saw it. He was like, yes, I definitely see it. And I'm like, he told me take some Benadryl. That's his answer. Everything Keegan thinks Benadryl or NyQuil will fix everything, which is cute. But I was like, so the first thing I did, I try never to WebMD myself into a frenzy because I know doctors don't appreciate that, and that's what doctors are for. We're not doctors. Well, most of us aren't. But I did want to see what could that be. And so I just typed in large lump on neck or in throat that moves when I was breathing and when I was swallowing and speaking, which you'll see. I'll drown the sound out, but I took this video and I sent it to my mom because I was like, what is this? Like, what's going on? And she immediately told me, go to urgent care or the emergency room right now. When I looked up online what that could be, it came back as likely something called a goiter, which is something that will surround your thyroid. It kind of protects it from being attacked. So I thought, okay, maybe that's what it was. And as soon as it said that, I realized, I remember my mom had a goiter, but my mom's was, even if she stuck her neck out, you couldn't really see it. It's something that you could only feel. I had never seen something like this protruding from somebody's neck before, and I got really scared. So I just told myself, okay, I was being a little pain in the butt. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take some Benadryl, and if tomorrow, if it's not gone, I'm gonna go to urgent care. Now, also, it's because I didn't have insurance, and if you guys watched my previous, my last life update video when I first moved down to Southern California, I explained that it was priced ridiculously, so I just paid the fine every year on my taxes, and I paid out of pocket if I needed anything. For me, it was important that I was investing as much money as possible into my business that was a startup at the time, than pay like $900 a month in insurance when I didn't have anything really going on. Again, life. But I didn't have anything going on, so it was less expensive for me to pay out of pocket if I needed antibiotics to go to the doctor or something like that. The next morning, it wasn't gone. I was still struggling to breathe and to swallow. Keegan drove me to urgent care down here in LA, and he wasn't able to stay just because, first of all, because of COVID and everything, they don't let any guests come in with you, or at least not where I am. Again, it might be different for other people. But also he had scheduled calls and he does webinars and stuff for his work, so he had those scheduled that he had to be at, and he couldn't help me anyway, just sitting there. So he left, and I waited there for 3 hours. Now, during all of this, I'm struggling to breathe. I have a mask on my face, which is making it a lot more difficult for me to breathe, and I'm just thinking all of these things in my head, and I'm working myself up, and now I'm crying. So I'm in a waiting room crying, trying not to cry, and it's making my breathing more difficult, and working myself up isn't going to do anything besides close my throat up more and make me hysterical. but I couldn't help it. I got into the doctor's office finally. A nurse came and took all my vitals. And then when the doctor came in, she looked at me like I was crazy. Like, you just noticed this? Like, how long has this been here? I said, I don't know. So the only thing I could do was go into my phone, and I showed her some videos that I'd either sent, like my nieces or nephews or something for their birthdays, or little video clips that I'd sent to like my best friend in Chicago, like going back and forth with her son that is a baby. And I was looking at some of the videos, and again, when you were looking straight at me, you could see this, and I'll post a picture, you could see this little like shadow, but again, I would think it was from like my hair being down or something. I never really overanalyzed it, and I don't know why. But then when I looked at some pictures from the side, I was like, how did I not see that? How did I not see that? I don't know, because again, it was in the video when I was moving, I started to notice. I can go back to like the beginning of July is really when I saw it, so it had to have been sometime in June coming as well. When I showed the doctor the videos and the pictures and the dates, and she felt it, it didn't feel like squishy. It wasn't like, you know, it sounds gross, but like a blister or something. It didn't feel like that, or like even a pimple. This was hard. The doctor told me, like, she felt it. She asked me if I had any pain from it, and I told her, besides having problems swallowing and breathing, it didn't hurt to touch. She told me that was a good thing, at least. So she told me that I was going to need an ultrasound. Now and blood work. Now I told her, she saw on my intake form that I was paying cash, and so she told me, she went out of the room, brought another doctor in that looked at it too, and then the doctor told me it would be better if I was paying out of pocket to do a CT scan, because they would gather more information than just from an ultrasound. Since I was paying out of pocket, it was best to do that. So, that's what I was going to have done. And then blood work the next day. Now, my mom, when they ordered the blood panel, she had something called your T3, your T4, and something called TSH, which is what your thyroid hormones that your thyroid puts out. I didn't realize either how many things your thyroid controls. Like, you can't survive without, I mean, people take synthetic drugs, but you need the hormones that your thyroid puts out to survive, to live. So it regulates body temperature, metabolism, anxiety, depression, weight, I mean, basically a ton of things. Immediately, Keegan came and picked me up, brought me over to the radiology center, and they did a CT scan on my neck. I asked for all the results to be burned onto a CD so I could keep all my information in one place, so once I did get like a primary care or a specialist, that I had all my information. So they did that for me. They were awesome. Then the next day I had blood work done. Now, she originally wrote it up just to have the 3 levels tested, and I did ask her if she could add on the antibody test as well. That would prove for something called Hashimoto's. Now, everybody has antibodies anyway in their body. To what level varies. I know my mom has Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease, and that autoimmune disease, it attacks your thyroid. It thinks your thyroid is a foreign object in your body, and it starts attacking it. Eventually, what ends up happening is enough of the healthy tissue dies, and you then have something called hypothyroidism, which is an underactive thyroid. And then you need to be on synthetic hormones to help. You can have something called Graves' disease, which is a hyperthyroid, which is an overactive thyroid. And they tend to give people things like radioactive iodine. I think they call it radioiodine, so it doesn't sound as scary. But that basically kills their thyroid, and then they end up with hypothyroidism, and they end up on synthetic hormones as well. So I asked for that, and she told me that test is expensive. I mean, the test, I'm paying out all of pocket for all of this, but she said that blood panel is going to be expensive. So she wrote me up 2 different forms. One with just 3 hormones, one with the 3 hormones and the antibody test. And she said, just when you hear the price, she's like, you might change your mind. I'm like, no, like I need to know what's going on. Like, I don't care what it costs. Like, I'm going to pay it. That ended up coming out to like almost $600 just for that blood work done. And again, that was a discounted rate because I was paying out of pocket. They didn't have to go through insurance. First, the CT scans result come back, and I'll show a little clip here of it because it does have like my date of birth and things like that on there, which personal information. But they ended up finding the CT scan. My mom's doctor later was like livid because she says, the doctor was thinking like, if that's a tumor or cancer, why would you expose it to radiation, which CT scan, it's minute. And it was like less than 5 minutes. But he was upset about that, and I was just all, I don't know. Like, they told me it was more information than just an ultrasound, so I didn't know. Like, I just went with that. Anyway, the CT scan results come back, and they said that it detected a 48 millimeter mass inside the right lobe of my thyroid. So it was not a goiter. A goiter is developed to protect your thyroid, which does happen with Hashimoto's or certain thyroid disorders, that basically like houses your thyroid to protect it from the attack that it's getting. Mine was not that. Mine was inside the right lobe of my thyroid, stretching it out and deviating my trachea 2 inches to the left. That was what was causing me to not be able to breathe very well and struggling to swallow. When that came back, and you'll see in that description, it says it's either a cyst or a cystic tumor. I was like, oh my God. Later, the blood work came back, and the blood work said that my T3, T4, and TSH were all within range. My antibodies were out of range. My antibodies were coming in at 74, which a normal range for my age and everything would be under 9, and mine were 74. Now, my mother's are at 1,000. That's a huge difference. So what that showed them was that my thyroid was still functioning normal, but it is under attack. So my 3 hormone levels were putting out normal within range. My thyroid is being attacked. The bad part about that is they didn't have a baseline to see maybe a year ago what my levels were like versus now to see if they were going up or if they were just even or really what was going on. The thing that really scared me the most was saying like, okay, like this, they're telling me that I definitely have an autoimmune disease. And the doctor did tell me that when you have one autoimmune disease, you are open to a host of other ones, like Hashimoto's can lead to type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, Addison's disease, lupus, a bunch of things. I was like, is this a pep talk? Is this a TED talk? Because I don't feel good. I don't feel inspired. I was freaking out. It was hard for me to understand that my body was actively, and even as I talk now, working against me. It's hurting myself, which is, again, and I can't stop it. While I was waiting for the results, I was terrified because I didn't have any of the symptoms that my mom had had. Now, again, everybody's body is different. Everybody's body reacts to things different. I didn't have any of the standard at the time. Since I had always had depression, like issues and anxiety, I wasn't chalking that up to this. I wasn't experiencing weight gain. I wasn't having issues sleeping really. I mean, I wasn't having any of those things that are linked with like hypothyroidism, again, which Hashimoto's can lead to, but I wasn't having any of those things that my mother had experienced, which was what actually led them to diagnosing her with that after testing. I was scared thinking like, okay, it's definitely cancer. The following days now, while I was waiting for the results to hear back from them, all of a sudden I couldn't keep food down. Now, I wasn't sure if that was from my anxiety again, or if it was because, how many times have I said anxiety already? Who knows? What was happening was with my throat being pushed to this way and it was squeezing it. When I was trying to eat something, I was swallowing hard because my throat was having to take like this deviated route to go down, and as I was swallowing harder, something would kind of get stuck and then it would give me a gag reflex and then my body would just be like, evacuate, and I would be throwing up. So for about 6 days while I was waiting for results, I couldn't keep food down. So I lost like 3 pounds. Don't you worry, I gained it all back and then some. I was then told that I was going to need, after the blood work and the CT scan result came back, I was told I was going to need something called an ultrasound guided needle biopsy. Where I was like, I'm awake for that? They basically put the ultrasound on your neck and they stab into your neck or into your thyroid with a needle. The needle is pretty small, but it wasn't the most comfortable thing. They did give me a bunch of numbing shots in my neck before they went in with the bigger one, but I could still feel them kind of like moving around in there, which was, again, anything that happens like on your neck or your face, it's just like your eyes are right there. It's kind of hard to avoid, and it freaked me out. And I wasn't allowed to have anybody in the room. Keegan brought me for the biopsy, but he had to wait in the waiting room. They weren't able to get me in for the biopsy for like 10 days anyway, so again, I was just like sitting kind of waiting, stewing, what ifs. I spoke to some of my friends that are ears, nose, and throat doctors. Some of them specialize in vertigo, and I was asking them about, if there was somebody in particular I should see that they would recommend, or, what they knew about it. And one of my friends, Chelsea, she's ears, nose, and throat, and she specializes in vertigo. She told me she listens to all these podcasts, and she's fascinated by thyroid issues anyway, but she's told me, like, it can be, nowadays, they say it can be controlled with diet a lot of the times. So that was hopeful for me. I know my mom, 15 years ago, when she was diagnosed with it, she went immediately on Synthroid, and what happens is anytime, like, same thing with people that take, like, steroids or testosterone or anything like that, typically when you supplement your body with that, a lot of times your body will stop making it on its own because it already gets it. So what function my mother did have left of her thyroid was killed off by taking the Synthroid. But she had discovered it so far in that her 3 hormone levels were all off anyway, and her thyroid had pretty much been really damaged anyway by the Hashimoto's. My friends recommended a specialist up here. She's up here at Cedars-Sinai, and I called to get an appointment with her. Now again, a lot of places, again, this time for this to be happening, they weren't taking new patients. A lot of places, I'm just like, is this like, I don't know, it felt like something out of like the end of the world movie. Like, what else is going wrong? Like, what's going on? I call, I get her assistant, and her assistant tells me that I need to email all of these forms over, and they tell me that she's booked about 3 months out. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait like 3 months. So I send over my test results, the pictures, all of that stuff. They call me within 8 hours, and they told me that she will see me, she'll squeeze me in 2 weeks. She came in extra early in the morning to see me. And she basically only takes cases that she finds fascinating or interesting, or she refers you to another that deals with the glands of the body. And thyroid is one of them. It's getting kind of chilly, so I'm going to put my jacket on. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. Who knows? Probably am. It's going to suck to edit. When I went for the needle biopsy, the technician told me, because I was thinking like, oh, well, what if my antibodies are high because my body is fighting this lump that's inside, like this foreign matter that's inside my thyroid. And I was kind of hoping, because again, the idea of living with an autoimmune disease for the rest of your life is, you know, not ideal. So I was kind of hoping like maybe it could be something else. And they just told me like, no, you definitely have Hashimoto's. Like, it's not that. I was like, okay. So when the ultrasound tech, which I know that they're not supposed to do this, but he did anyway, when he put it on and he looked at my thyroid, he told me immediately, you definitely have a disorder of your thyroid. He said most their thyroids are supposed to look smooth. He said mine looked like sandstone, and so that he could tell that there was something wrong with it. They also told me that they were going to aspirate if it was, once they got in there, like they could tell actually on the ultrasound immediately that there was fluid in there along with tissue, and they said they were going to try to something called aspirate it, which is basically drain it. And they did warn me. They said when we go in, everybody's is different depending on what's in there. They said some people have like a substance in there that's thick like honey, and they can't get it out that way. So they just told me we'll see. So when they went in there, they literally, I think it was 29 cc's worth of fluid. There were like big tubes, not just like blood tubes like that, and it was completely clear, like water. It didn't have any like fat stuff on top. There was no blood. There was no like pus looking anything. There was nothing in there. It looked like water coming straight out of the sink, which I was like, that is crazy. They did tell me, they were like, that's a good sign. I'm like, what's a bad sign? I'm like, I think this large thing that looks like a giant scrotum that developed in my neck is a bad sign. Whatever, I'll take whatever good news I can get. So they told me, they took that and some tissue. They told me that they were going to send it out for pathology. They told me not to expect any results from the fluid, but from the tissue. They did tell me that at that point, there was about only a 4% or less chance that it was going to be malignant. Given like what it looked like and the fluid in there. So I was like, okay, that's good. They did tell me now after that they had aspirated it, which I'll show you before and after, it made a huge difference, that they couldn't tell me when the fluid buildup would start coming back. It definitely would, but they couldn't tell me if it would be a week, a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years. They don't know. They have no idea. So I was like, okay. I just had to wait for pathology results. So at that point now, keep in mind, I'm still going through the urgent care doctor because I don't have a primary care doctor. I had applied for insurance when this started now, and I was just kind of waiting. So I had applied for insurance and I was waiting. I ended up getting in to see this specialist. I go in to see the specialist, and at first, like, I know they're very busy. At first, I waited in there for an hour before she came in the room. And when she did come in the room, she basically looked at all my test results and everything, and basically just told me, I had told her, oh, you know, I've been reading a bunch of stuff and some books and things my friends have sent me, like doctor friends, and they were talking about how to control it more so with diet, like elimination, like no gluten, like avoid the 5 inflammation triggers: gluten, alcohol, dairy, soy, sugar, all of these things. So I was like, oh my God, so I can eat wood and air. Got it. Because there's so many things. All of those things are in everything. So, but I'm willing to do that if that's what I need to do. If that's going to help preserve anything that I naturally have. I'm not a fool. I don't discard science. I don't think that, oh, I'm going to rub nuts and berries on myself and it's going to heal me. I know that that's not the way things work, but I also know that if my 3 hormone levels are producing normal right now, that my thyroid is still functioning. So if I can try to put off damage by eating a restricted diet and a low inflammation diet, then that's what I was going to do. I told that to the doctor. Now, Cedars-Sinai here is in Beverly Hills. And when I told her that, she told me that she didn't believe in elimination diets. She didn't believe that a low inflammation diet would have any impact on me. And I said, well, again, she's a specialist in her field and came highly recommended. And I just asked her, and it's funny because my friend that Chelsea that sent me the books about controlling it with diet, she's the one that referred me to her after talking to some other doctor friends, and she was like, what? She basically stomped out my hopes and dreams about that, just telling me no, she doesn't believe in that. She filled out something because she's not in, and I told her my insurance was going to kick in a couple of weeks, and she wasn't in network, but she could fill something out to see if I could stay with her. And she filled something out saying that my condition is life-threatening, but then told me, see me in 6 months. Like, what? She literally booked an appointment out for March. I was like, she said if it starts coming back again, come back and see me, and she was going to refer me, her assistant would refer me to some surgeons to see if I needed to get that out. Could just be the right lobe of my thyroid. Who knows? Again, I'm just like, what is going on? I feel like for every test and every doctor I was seeing, I was getting 100 more questions than any kind of answers, which was really frustrating for me. I asked the question if the lump caused the Hashimoto's or the Hashimoto's caused the lump, and the doctor told me that she couldn't tell me what caused the lump. And she told me that the two were not related, which I had a hard time, and I still have a hard time understanding, because I'm just like, how is that possible? I've never had cysts anywhere develop on my body. It just so happens that one develops inside the right lobe of my thyroid, and I have an autoimmune disease that's attacking my thyroid, and the two aren't related. So I just said, well, if you're telling me you can't tell me what caused it, you also can't tell me that it didn't cause it. I was thinking, so in my mind, I still feel like the two have to be related. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was just a fluke, but I did ask her. I told her all the things that I was eliminating, and she was just like, that's a lot. She's like, a gluten already is a lot. So she just told me that she didn't believe, and that there were no studies to back up that a low inflammation diet would help. And I did, when I talked about it on Instagram, some people did tell me things about the Apollo diet. There are medically recognized diets that are low inflammation. So that's just what I was trying to do. A lot of it, what I was reading, was saying things like dairy and other stuff, the protein and enzymes on there kind of mimic what your thyroid hormone is putting, or your thyroid is putting out for hormones. So your body is just on constant attack. It starts attacking all of those things. It's attacking your thyroid. So eventually it just exhausts itself and it dies. I asked her, well, the last blood panel I had done, because that was at the end of July now, and now seeing her was, when did I see her? September. So I asked her, could I go and get more blood work done to see where my levels are at now? And she just told me, no, I don't think that that's necessary. And I was like, well, why not? I want to see if what I'm doing, because this whole time now I've been doing the elimination. I wasn't eating gluten, sugar, any of those things. And she just told me well, I think it would have been better if you had a panel done a year to 5 years ago. And I'm like, well, I don't have a time machine, can't go back. So, but I understand, like, she's just a straight shooter, which I appreciate. I don't want anybody to kind of dance around an issue. But, and again, a lot of times doctors have their own philosophies on things. Some things are universal, but some people interpret things and studies and new things differently. So she just told me it was a quality of life thing, that I should eat whatever I want, and in 6 months come back and she can give me a pill if I need one at that point. I was like, that would replace the hormones. I was just kind of like, I left really disheartened. I was bawling. And everything on these doctor's appointments, I always just ask them, can you please write this down or send me a summary or like print me up a summary, because I'm not going to be able to remember this or explain it, because once I start hearing some bad news, my brain just like shuts down and I start crying, and then I'm not listening to anything. The doctor informed me that being under chronic stress triggered something called a thyroid storm, and that's what brought this all about. So it may have been laying dormant in me, was, for all of these years. And I mean, I work in a high stress. I tend to thrive under a lot of stress, actually. I don't know why, but I tend to do some of my best work and things like that. But I think, again, this during quarantine and the COVID situation and the moving during it and all of these things, I just wasn't dealing well. So up to now, all of these visits were out of pocket. It was definitely starting to add up and get very expensive, and I finally got approved for insurance. That was going to take effect October 1st. I am in an HMO, so I have to pick a primary care physician, and the primary care physician has to give you referrals for everything, which I've only ever had PPOs, so I was not aware of the joys of HMOs. So the HMO, I have a primary care doctor who I had to get in an appointment to see. Now, that was 2 weeks out, and they wouldn't even see me in person. They would only do a teleconference call. So I'm just kind of like, what could they possibly tell me besides what I'm telling them? I'm just thinking, like, what kind of care can I get when this is a concern that I'm having? So the doctor I talked to, he was amazing. He was so understanding and nice. He referred me to a new endocrinologist, because he saw, like, I have something called my chart, so I was able to sync them all so he could see what the doctor at Cedars-Sinai said from my test results. And him being a primary care, his specialty is not thyroid disorders or thyroid cancer, so he didn't have a lot of insight to give me for that. Now, I also told him that I wanted to see a psychiatrist because I wasn't doing well mentally, and I think it would really benefit me to talk to somebody and potentially be on medication if that's what I need. Again, all taking into account knowing what's going on with my thyroid. I want to make sure that I'm not taking something that messes that up or anything else going on in my body. So I kind of need everyone on the same team going in the same direction, all understanding what's going on. The specialist for the endocrinologist, he put it in as a rush, an emergency, and that got approved within 2 days. And then he said for the mental health stuff, he said, unfortunately, he goes, that could take up to 14 business days, which is like 3 weeks. And so he told me to hang tight with that. He asked me, are you wanting to hurt yourself or anything like that? I'm like, I don't want to physically hurt myself. I'm like, but I'm at a point right now where I am disappointed when I wake up in the morning. And that's not good. That's not healthy. I'm gonna make sure I'm not crying. So I was feeling like that, and it was a very intense feeling, and I was just feeling like I'm losing my mind. Like, Keegan has never, ever seen me like this. Most of my friends have never seen me like this either. Again, I don't think I've felt this bad ever. Never in my life. So the doctor explained to me, she's like, your thyroid, all of these things, she's like, it is wreaking havoc, probably on depression, on your anxiety. It's exacerbating it and making it worse. And it is leading to fatigue and all of these problems because my body is constantly working on hurting itself and trying to heal itself and all of these things on top of all the other mental stuff. So basically it was just a battleground. My mother and father are both in high-risk categories. My mother is retired, and her husband has a daughter that's 16. She's not really in a high-risk category, but still. And my mom has Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease automatically. And my father lives in Boston with his wife that has 2 young children. And so my dad, I didn't feel good with anybody traveling to come see me with all these COVID things going on. I didn't want to risk them getting infected. And again, they can't even be in the room with me anyway through any of this stuff I'm going on. If I have surgery, which I probably will have to have maybe in January, then they'll be there for that. Since I applied for insurance in the California marketplace, I have to stay in California for major medical. Like if I'm traveling outside, an emergency happens, I can go to an emergency room or urgent care, and that's covered. But anything major medical, I need to go get a referral through my primary care, or if I have a standing referral, that will be a standing referral. So I can see them now whenever I need. I don't need to go through him each time. And same thing with the psychiatry. Now, I didn't want to go to therapy because therapists can't write you prescriptions. And I think that I'm so far off. I'm pretty sure that I'm probably going to need something to get me over what I'm going through now. It might need to be something permanent. Again, I don't know. I don't have any answers. I have been struggling now with my body temperature. Like I'll go from freezing to super hot. I feel like I'm in early menopause. Who knows? I might be doing that as well. Fatigue problems, depression, anxiety. I've been having numbness in my fingertips. I've been experiencing that for quite some time now, and I was thinking it had to do with being on a computer typing a lot, but it's gotten bad recently, and they said that was something that it could be affecting. While weight gain can be a side effect, and it is, of hypothyroidism, I don't have hypothyroidism. Not yet, anyway. I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune. I had to ask what the difference was between hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease. Hypothyroidism is a disease of the thyroid. So right now, my thyroid is still functioning. I have gained 10 to 12 pounds during quarantine. That is also because I used to work out 4 days a week with a personal trainer, and I can't anymore. This road is so narrow. I've been trying to get out and like run, but I actually have to drive to a place and try to run, but all the parks are really closed down and stuff, so I'm really at limited options here. So I'm trying to do stuff to get me up and moving and my mind occupied and to feel useful again. I don't have my extensions in anymore, which I've worn for almost 18 years, which is a really long time. I mean, not the same set, but I just feel like when I'm looking in the mirror, like I don't recognize. I know I don't need things like my extensions. I don't think that I'm ugly without them, but they're just things that have become a part of me, like my routine and things that I do that I miss them. I don't feel good about the weight I've gained. I don't feel good about all the hard work I put in to gain muscle. I mean, you work hard to get it, and then it's like you lose it in no time. And I know there's muscle memory and things, but again, I'm just bitching. I have been living off of savings. I am still with Keegan right now. I have been freaking out about everything, and he just keeps telling me, like, you know, just relax, focus on getting healthy and get your health situated first before you like go out and, you know, make a big drastic move or decide where you want to live or anything like that. Like one step at a time. So I mean, thank God for Keegan. At the end of March, Dior will be 18 years old. I've had her since my senior year of college, and she's completely deaf and blind now, and she's walking into things, and she's a healthy weight. The vet, it's not cataracts. She just, their eye starts to build up like a thicker layer, so her eyes kind of have like a silvery tint to them now, and she's been with me through everything. So that I'm just like, man, when it rains it pours. It's just like so many things at once. I realize, like, when I've tried to set all this stuff up to film, it's like I'm dragging everything like out of the storage unit and like up here and bringing things outside. I don't have my own space, and I don't have my things. Like, everything I've worked so hard for and like these material things that I own is in a box, which is like, maybe I'll have a picture of it. It's depressing to see that. I mean, I'm happy. I should be grateful that I have things to begin with, but again, it's jarring. It's also really reassuring for me that when I come home, while I've lived by myself before, and again, I'm perfectly fine, I travel by myself, I'm good in my own company, I feel scared, and I like knowing that Keegan's going to be home when I come home from a doctor's appointment and I'm crying, or if I'm having a really hard day, that I'm not by myself, you know, with my dog that's deteriorating as well, and it's just, everything just kind of feels like a mess right now. I have to go back for another biopsy, and then I will figure out if I need surgery, if it's cancer, to remove it. Again, I'm hoping I'm in that high percentage that it's not cancer, but the first biopsy came back abnormal and that they needed to go and grab some more tissue. If it's benign, or just like or if it's just a cyst, even though the fluid will keep coming back, they can do something called ethanol ablation, where basically they inject ethanol alcohol into it, and that causes cellular death. So remember, one of the things we were talking about is not putting alcohol directly on wounds. Like, hospitals stop doing that because it does cause tissue death. that it can inject it into there, and then it can kind of kill the tissue and the cells around it, and then hopefully it'll come back less and less each time. But no matter what, it's going to keep coming back unless I have it cut out and removed, which will probably, again, likely require the right lobe of my thyroid to be removed. Or I can just keep waiting for it to fill up, have issues, go get it drained. I'm still going through all of this stuff. I just wanted to let you guys know, like, I definitely have been disappointed in myself that I feel like I've kind of stopped everything. I know I need my own space so I can have my stuff set up. I can feel good about being around my own things, but I feel scared right now and I'm not ready. I'm looking forward to going and talking to someone, to see a psychiatrist. I think that will be very good for me. I know that what I'm doing right now is not enough. I started doubting myself. I was lacking energy. Logically, I know that I have such a good support system of friends and family that I can lean on or talk to about things, but I'm not good at asking for help. I wouldn't call that a strength, I would call that a weakness. And my mind, though, right now feels like it's not possible that anybody really cares about me, because I feel like the person that they got to know doesn't exist anymore. I feel like a shell of that person, just because I feel like I've been defeated, where normally I would take on a challenge, and I always let myself feel the feelings that I'm going to feel, and they're perfectly okay, but you have to pick yourself up and push on, because there's no other option besides quitting, and I'm not a quitter. And these really negative and heavy feelings that I'm having, I recognize that they're not healthy and that they're not good. And so that's the hope that I have. As long as I realize, like, kind of where home is, or my home base in my head, like mental state is, and I know that I've deviated from that, and I recognize how I'm feeling is not healthy, that I know that I can't be too far gone, because I at least know that, and I'm seeking help. I'm trying to fix things. Basically, I've been having a pity party for myself for too many months, like 6 months, 7 months, I don't know, a while now, and it's just like, I need to get out of it. I need to, like, shake this loose. I need to move forward, and that's what I'm going to try to do. It's definitely okay to have pity parties for yourself at times. I mean, again, it is, but I need to stop wallowing in this sad hole that I've dug myself into, because all this time is just flying by, and I'm like, my birthday is on the 3rd, and I'm going to be 39 years old, and I'm just, like, looking at this, like, this dumpster fire right now of a life that I've made. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I need to fix these things. So I'm taking these steps, and I think a lot of it is, you know, like, work and things are outside of my control. So I've just realized if I need to go and work for somebody else and put my company on the back burner for now until things start to resume or pick up again, then that's what I have to do. I'm not above any job. I've worked in so many different industries, and I've worked every job from retail to order picking to customer service, anything. So it's like, I will do whatever I have to do to get through this time, and then when things, you know, the world starts picking back up, it's through no fault of my own that these things have happened with work anyway. And that's what I just need to keep telling myself, because I just keep picking myself apart and feeling like I need to be more productive. I need to do this, but there's nothing for me to do. Now, I realize this video is so long, so I'm going to have to put my Amazon stuff in another video, because this has been super long. Okay, guys, so that's that.